All right, we'll go ahead and call to order the Planning Commission meeting for Monday, August 7th, 2023. We'll go ahead and have a roll call vote, or roll call attendance, please.
No problem. 1 second. Mr. Glass. Here. Mr. Marks.
Here.
Mr. Scott.
Here.
Mr. Simile.
Here.
Mr. Snyder.
Here.
Awesome. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for this evening?
Motion to approve.
Any questions?
Is there a second on that?
Is there
I second it.
any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the May 1st meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion or changes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. I believe the only thing that we have on the agenda this evening is a hearing for a fence variance request for 6327 Inglewood. I believe that is your property, correct?
That's you.
All right. So,
So state your name and address.
yeah, if you would, go ahead and state your name and address, and then kind of walk us through the request, if you don't mind.
So my name is Peter Boland. I'm at 6327 Englewood. The request is for the 190 square foot linear fence. I want a 6 foot, I'm applying for a permit for a 6 foot fence with no decorative topping. And the law is that I have to have the last 18 inches decorative topping. So I'm applying for a permit to just do a regular 6 foot fence instead of the 6 foot decorative.
Okay, and then as I believe I saw in the application, that fence would also come from the back corner of your house to this, a foot away from the sidewalk, and then proceed.
This
To-
will go the side of my house, the back of my house, and the other side of my house.
Okay,
Right up against my house, and then a foot all around from the property line.
got it. Okay,
And just to be clear, you're asking for a variance, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you said an application, it's a variance, because what you're asking for doesn't comply with our zoning code, correct?
So, we're allowed to ask questions at this point? Or-
yeah, I think at this point,
So is there a reason for a 6 foot?
Yeah, so I have a dog who's 60 pounds. He's pretty lean and tall, so I wanted that extra 2 feet just for privacy. His safety, everyone else's, peace of mind that we can get out there and enjoy our time without him poking up, seeing what's going on in the neighborhood.
so one question I do have is, part of the request is also for a fence running between your house and your neighbor's house. And there is currently a, albeit short, privacy fence along there as well. Do you know what the relationship is of that fence to the property line?
I do not.
Okay. One of the concerns I will say that I have about putting another fence there is if that's on the property line and you're bringing another privacy fence a foot in, you can't even get a lawnmower between there. Like how would you maintain your foot of property between the two fences?
So they would have access on the other side, and I will say, I talked to my neighbor and we have a good relationship, and, if she had any problems, hopefully she'd be here, but she said this didn't. I could always be back at that on her side of the fence.
Okay.
How tall is the one on her side?
Like 12
Like-
inches.
Oh, okay.
12, 18 inches.
So.
Oh, is that from the picture? I couldn't tell, but I was guessing higher than that.
Yeah.
It's really low.
Okay.
So Mr. Butler, so the code enforcement official denied the application, and the reason it was denied, can you go through that, please?
Well, it's as a corner lot, it's, the significance is where the fence comes, in her picture, it's easier to kind of, yeah. It's the part of the fence that runs along, I guess that's St. Albans, that's objectionable. Actually, the fence on the right side isn't, as you're looking at it from Inglewood. But on the left side, per the statute, you can't have a fence that runs up that close to the street. And in fact, as I read it, you can't have a fence there at all. Would you agree with that, Mr. Putoff?
I denied it based on she needed to have the decorative topper on that side.
Okay, well, with the decorative topper,
Yeah.
but even, I mean,
As
that
I-
side lot,
As I understand it, there are two issues here. One, that high without the decorative topper, but
Mhm.
also coming closer to the street than the side of the house.
yes, correct, I'm sorry, that's correct, right. So you can't run it up to the street like that. It could run down the side of the house. But even there, you need to have the decorative topper, whatever that looks like. As a 6-foot fence.
Yeah, and I think in the past, the only variances we've allowed with those heights are decorative top above 4 feet, is that correct?
I don't know the history, but
Because there's one down on Fair Oaks and Lozannaville.
I mean, there's multiple examples
there are.
throughout the village because
Yeah.
we've been pretty
There's one on
strict about
Greenlawn,
that.
One down on, further down on Greenlawn.
Yeah. There's one at Fair Oaks in Lozannaville.
Right.
Mr. Rich's address, which is
Mayflower and Bremont.
Mayflower and Bremont.
Yes.
Now, all of those have been cases where we've approved to allow them to come closer to the
Street.
sidewalk.
Mhm.
Yeah, but with the exception that they include the decorative element. And like I said, we've been really stringent on that part of it. I mean, for what we've required other people to go back and even modify
Because
fences.
we had the person on Greenlawn down by the top of the hill, that fence had to be modified.
So
And
did,
the one on
so did the
Elmwood
wood,
Greenlawn.
yeah.
Right.
Is there a reason why a decorative topper can't be used?
So I worked with 4 to 5 companies. One company doesn't do decorative topping. The other companies it's adding like thousands of dollars to the cost of the fencing because it's so much more per square foot depending on the company that you go with. So it's just becoming prohibitively expensive to add the decorative topping to it.
So what's the max height we allow without a decorative top?
Well, if you look at,
Actually, we don't even allow it, right?
I was gonna
I think it's
say,
48 inches, if it's in line with
With the house.
the house.
Not all the way out to the sidewalk, to the line of the house.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be really narrow.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I mean, it's only the width of the house. That house can't be. What's your house, 20 feet, 25 feet, maybe? Actually, I think a lot's 35.
Well, if you look at 155101 and 112350, those are the things that guide you in your decision. And it does talk about the decorative features of the fence, construction of the fence, landscaping between the fence and the sidewalk, or the curb along the secondary street. So you could, I mean, depending on how you wanted to address this, you could certainly make, if you want to grant it, you can put conditions on it as well. The topper, this code talks about landscaping and that type of thing. So if you wanted to do this, there's ways to do it without necessarily the decorative topper, but other contingencies on the variance.
And that was my reason for asking why you need 6 and not 4, because
Yes.
the 4 makes it a lot easier to, like.
I understand.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you mind repeating the first statute or that you just read?
115101. And that's specific to your situation, and 1123.5 is the general statute regarding variances. That second section talks about the necessity, how it affects public health, safety, why you need it, those types of issues, and why this request is peculiar to the property. Okay.
Are you concerned your dog standing on his hind legs could see over 4 feet?
I am, and I'm concerned that other people can reach in at 4 feet
If it's close to the sun.
if it's.
Right, even if it's not.
Yeah. Could be, and I think this sketch is a little exaggerated because I think the house is wider than what is shown on the sketch. I don't think there's near the distance between the house and the sidewalk that it appears on here.
So what were the rules regarding fences even established and why? Like as an outsider looking in, it kind of seems arbitrary. Like if we were like an established HOA, but there's more consistency throughout all the fences in the neighborhood, this would kind of make more sense, but nobody's fences in these neighborhoods. Right, so like, why are we like?
And that's why.
Yeah,
Obviously.
I can tell you that the entire zoning code was developed through a laborious process
Yeah,
and is definitely not arbitrary.
okay.
We look at this periodically, and each and every, so you can imagine our zoning code is pretty thick, and fences included, and it's always a kind of a long process to come up with something, and well thought out. I'll say I've gone through at least 2 of these, and a lot of effort and thought is to put into the control of fences and all the other issues that are contained in the zoning code.
So like, what would be the reason for the fence having to line up with the edge of her house as opposed to coming out closer to the sidewalk?
I'm sorry. We really kind of need to. This is.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, I'm actually on your side.
I understand.
I do.
I understand. But
understand that.
I mean, if you would like to schedule a time to review the code at some point, I'm sure we could arrange for that. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
I thought the only, the decorative topping was the only issue with fence. I didn't realize that the side of the house, that was even a lot, okay.
All right. So where are we with this? Are there recommendations for how to proceed?
Yeah, is discussion completed, and have we heard enough from the applicant? Have you had your say?
I have, I'm just trying to understand, how we can make this work, if we can make this work. Definitely want to put roots down here and make this house, what I want it to be, but I understand that there are rules and boundaries around that.
So a 6-foot fence along the north side of the property, properly placed is not the issue, correct? The north side being the right side of the house.
No.
Correct.
And there's not an issue with a 6-foot fence along the west side of the property, which is the issue becomes.
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused where you're getting the 6-yard
6-foot fence?
restriction anyway. Jim, is that, it's not a,
We have 6-foot fences on it.
I know that, that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure 6 foot is the issue,
No.
period.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm
Anything
saying there's
6
not
foot-
an issue along the north side, along the west side.
let's just say the fence is not an issue along the north side. It's only an
And the west
issue
side. It's on
on
the south side,
south side,
yes.
on the St. Albans side, we'll call it. Yes. And that is the only issue there is the placement.
Normally it would have to come off the back of the house,
It'll run,
the back corner and go west.
correct, run
Toward the-
parallel to the back of the yard.
And even then, I think in the past, we've only allowed decorative tops on that.
Then, well,
Is that correct?
This is a unique situation to corner lots.
Yes.
Yes,
this-
it's
yes,
just for corner lots.
Corner lots, that's where we've had that.
Actually, if she puts it there, it's not a variance, and therefore you don't have to look at these other things such as decorative toppings or, you know,
You're saying she moves it to the corner of the house?
it's no longer a variance.
It's only because it's coming off the corner to the sidewalk.
Yeah, her
And then
application,
running parallel to the sidewalk.
right. So you could turn her down today, and then she could still build a fence, but it'd have to be from the corner of the lot to the back of the yard. And not all, you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay.
So, I mean, I for one feel that because the standard that we have held so many other residents to, that if it comes off the corner of the house, I feel that we have to require the decorative topper.
I agree with you. I don't know whether you thought I was saying something.
No,
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yes,
I understand that that's the only element that
Yes.
takes it out of.
because from here to there is not a variance.
There's a picture, so you can see that the distance from the house to the sidewalk is probably what, 10 feet, maybe?
It's more than that,
I know, yes.
probably more like 20 feet.
Oh, from the house to the sidewalk?
Yeah. 15 to 20.
Maybe.
You can get a car in that driveway,
There's no.
just about.
There's no-
Yeah, there is, right there. Into the garage.
Oh, I see what you're saying, sorry.
So,
But regardless,
So what we're saying is a fence drawn parallel from the back of the house to the back of the property line would not be a variance.
It's not a variance.
Correct.
Then there would be still the issue of having a decorative topper on that section of fence.
So, not from the corner.
No, because it's not a variance. You're not asking, again, the considerations under 115101 are things like variance, some sort of, decorative plants between the fence and the sidewalk. But that's only if it's a variance.
Ron, can you move the cursor to where she wants to put the fence? Along St. Albans?
a foot in from the sidewalk.
Put in from the
Put in from
sidewalk.
the sidewalk.
So come off the house toward the street, the sidewalk, parallel to the sidewalk to the property line and then back north.
And is that a carport?
No, there's no carport.
No
In the
carport.
middle?
Yeah, in the middle of the driveway.
So the driveway is just the driveway goes down into the garage. And
Okay.
then in the middle of the yard is like a dirt fire pit area.
So where are we? Conclude.
That's my question.
Well, I guess if we're done hearing from the applicant, you can close that portion of this up and allow for discussion of the members.
I think you said that you've shared everything you feel that you need to share. So yeah, it really is down to conversation amongst planning commission members.
Which could be conversation, discussion, motions,
Questions?
questions of her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but then we're really opening it back up.
Yeah.
But if you have a question of her, I think,
Well, and it may just be because the map is here, right? Excuse me, Ron, Steve. What am I looking at this point right here?
That is it's like cement.
It's a retaining wall to the
Retaining wall.
driveway that goes down.
Got it. Okay. And that would be essentially splitting the baby. It looks like it's about halfway between the corner of the house and
and the
and the sidewalk.
sidewalk. So you're suggesting something like right there?
Yes.
But to allow it to be 6 foot without decorative.
I hadn't gotten to that part. Hadn't gotten to that part yet. I was
Okay, all right.
only suggesting that we allow slightly further than, but not all the way to 1 foot from the sidewalk.
So in every other application, since the fence code was modified 3 years ago, I believe it was, extending beyond the imprint of the house has required the decorative topping, and that has been applied across
You mean
all
from-
fences.
If we do this,
If we come,
If
if
it
we
comes out.
come
Oh, yeah, no,
from
no, no.
closer to the,
I'm-
from the house.
again, whether it's decorative topping or the other options, which would be some sort of plants or something like that, that's obviously up to the board. If you're saying you've done that on every other time you've granted a variance, then there's probably certainly some precedent for that.
I feel
But you
that,
do have options.
I mean, I feel that it's strong enough precedent
Yeah.
that we can't come off of that.
And I just want to make clear, it's up to you all as to
Right.
what you have to do.
And I think it'd be hard for us to come off with a decorative if it's out to the sidewalk.
I think if it's beyond the side of the
On the
house,
side of the house, it would have to be decorative given all the precedent.
right. Now, I know that there are pre-made panels at Home Depot or Lowe's, but I think that it's a smaller section of decorative. I think it's only like, 12 to 15 inches
Yeah.
in those pre-made panels. I don't think that, that the 4 foot, 2 foot necessarily needs to be a die-hard aspect of it. But I think I would want to see what the proposed decorative element is. But I think that if it comes closer to the sidewalk, strictly for the fact that this issue has come up before the planning commission multiple times, and that's always been the one caveat for allowing the fence to come closer to the sidewalk than the side of the house, that we've kind of held the line on. I think that we have to. Where are you guys with that? I mean, like what I'm saying, is there agreement, disagreement?
I'm sorry, if you come straight off the corner house to the back, it's a 6-foot fence, there's no variance required.
Correct.
Out toward the sidewalk and go back, now you're into the decorative piece, simply because we've enforced that multiple times. And a 6-foot, I personally, I think a 6-foot fence right along the sidewalk.
Mr. Putoff, do you have anything to add to this?
No, I think it's covered all.
So I'm going to make a motion that we approve the variance with the condition that the fence would have, before I do this. I haven't heard any pushback beyond your recommendation as far as the placement of this fence in relationship to the sidewalk. What is,
I don't know, Jason, were you saying if it was right up the sidewalk, that you consider, it could be a consideration there or not?
I feel less of a concern about it being a 4-foot fence if it's not a foot from the sidewalk, but I think I'm putting myself in the applicant's shoes, concerned for people reaching over the fence.
so let's say we're talking about a fence that is 6 feet tall with a decorative element at the top. What are your thoughts on placement of that fence, given those parameters?
The only variance would be for, at that point, the fact that it comes past the corner of the house. Would not be a variance for also being within 1 foot of the sidewalk, correct?
Everything past the edge of the house to the sidewalk is a variance.
There's not an additional provision that says you can't have a fence within 1 foot of the sidewalk.
You can't have a fence past the edge of the house. All of this is saying, we're okay if it's past if it's closer to the sidewalk than the edge of the house under these conditions. And what I've said is I feel that we have to stick to the condition of the decorative element. But that's one parameter. So what I'm asking is, are there other considerations of, does that mean as long as we have the decorative element, we're fine with it being a foot away from the sidewalk? Are we saying we want it in 3 feet from the sidewalk? This totally separate conversation from the decorative element. I think we've all kind of expressed that we feel that that is a necessity,
What's that?
the decorative element. So now the question is, are we okay with this fence coming a foot away from the sidewalk? Or are there other restrictions or requests that we want to recommend with a 6-foot decorative topped fence location as in relationship to the sidewalk?
So just, since we've done this in the past, would the decorative top have to also be from the corner of the house out to the sidewalk? Because that's what we did down.
Yes.
A lot of places. So it wouldn't just be along the sidewalk, it would be along the driveway, then down the sidewalk,
Correct.
correct?
So, Mr. Blathers, do you have any recommendations or input on that?
On our previous meetings, when we had about two or three other homes, we laid it down and said, we're gonna make it a standard
Mhm.
based on, and we stated that because we were looking at what was prior done in the community and just to get a standard, because everyone has everything, all high, low, non-decorative, and people want to know why was this allowed. So we stated probably 2 or 3 years ago, we made a standard and we said we're gonna, make that the standard.
What was that standard in your mind?
Whatever the decorative, if it was like 6 foot with the decorative topping, if you had 4 foot, the remaining, you had to make, if it was gonna be 6 foot, 2 foot of that had to be decorative. And we were talking about lattice and all this other stuff, but, I can't remember the distance.
I don't believe that we
to the
established.
sidewalk.
I don't know that we
didn't
ever
really
required
establish.
distance. So this all started, there was I think back when you were originally here at the Fair Oaks property, they installed a fence at the sidewalk. And there was a concern by the planning commission that this would become a stockade community where you have 6-foot fences and you're walking down an alley when you're walking down the street. Now, there are many different types of fences in the village. The village has never made the decision to go back and make people change fences when the code changes. So everything that has been out there previously has been grandfathered. The village can do that if we wish at some point to,
If it's grandfathered in, it's grandfathered in.
but I mean, if the code changes,
Code changes, everything's grandfathered in.
okay.
You can't impose the restrictions of a new code on a pre-existing fence.
So
Now,
that explains why there are variances in fences along the neighborhood. In addition to that, there used to be a fence code that fences could not be any taller than 4 feet, period. And the reason we changed the fence code was we had numerous hearings on people who wanted 6-foot fences. So then it changed to just the back of the fence at the rear of the property could be 6 foot. And then the last updated fence code allowed it on all 3 sides of the backyard. And then included the decorative topping piece of this. So the code has evolved over a period of time. There are fences that I see as problems in the village that need to be addressed. But when it comes to the code itself, those things were grandfathered. So,
If the fence falls down, needs reconstructed, if the individual tears it down, they lose their grandfathering.
Right.
But as long as the fence is functional fence, we really can't do anything about it.
All right, so my question to the board is placement of the fence in relationship to the side yard or to the sidewalk. What are the thoughts there?
What was the request for what, 18 inches?
a foot in from the
A foot in?
sidewalk.
I don't think we can deny that for the placement of other fences. I guess we could, right? But
I mean, you know,
it's a variance.
precedent for this kind of thing isn't like a court precedent. Precedent for this kind of thing is, well, we've done it before, you don't have to do it now. Each one of these cases is new. And, you know, if that, I'm not saying you don't put the, you know, you don't stick with what you've done in the past, but
I will say that since this board has been hearing fence issues and has started insisting on the decorative fence, only once has a side fence been put up that close to the sidewalk. It was the property formerly belonging to the Malats at Lissanaville and Fair Oaks. And I will say that in that hearing, we said that we wanted that fence set back far enough that there could be some landscaping between the sidewalk and the fence. And it did not happen. And that fence is roughly a foot or less. That is the only one where we approved a variance that it was that close and yet was not supposed to be that close. All the other ones have been several feet in. The property at Mayflower and Bremont is probably three or more feet in from the sidewalk. The one at the bottom of Bremont is, up on a hill and then several feet in from the sidewalk. So this is the first time that we are discussing how close a fence can be to the sidewalk. All those other ones, actually, the fences were put up without permission, and in order to let them stay, we required that they convert them to decorative fencing.
Because at that time, we could have required the fence to be
Torn down, yes.
The right of way, the city right of way is a foot behind, so if they have to remove the wall, if they have to replace a gas line, water line, what have you, they have that right of way, and it's typically a minimum of a foot. So.
yeah, well, I'm glad you said that because it seems to me prudent for the village for access in the area. We don't know what will come up, that there be more than a foot.
Well, that's
Beyond the right of way it's a fluid thing. I mean, it's really not always a foot behind. It's usually at least encompasses a sidewalk. But I think for access to whatever may or in the future, yeah, I think 1 foot really isn't enough.
And actually, isn't there a standard from like the center line of the street?
I can tell you, I've been studying right of ways forever, and you're never, yes,
Okay.
but it's not as consistent as you would think. Okay, I mean, for me to figure out what the right of way would be, I would have to really go there and look at it. I can't tell you it's
fence would be
9
safer
feet or
to
10 feet.
hold it back beyond the foot. Well, for one, more safety from people walking down the sidewalk. 2, if there's utility work and the fence is in the way, they'll take it out, but you're responsible they're not gonna be responsible for the cost, so I think you'd be safer to hold it back several feet, 3-4 feet would be better, it's a little less fence.
Mr. Putoff and Mr. Hurth, is there any input there regarding easement and as far as a recommendation?
I think 3 feet is a reasonable.
I would make a motion then, at this point, that we approve the variance with the condition that the fence is 3 feet off the sidewalk with the decorative topper.
And that the decorative topper would also
Would
run along.
run along the St. Albans side and then return to the house.
but not required along that.
So it would be
Correct.
this area where the cursor is.
Yep.
Down.
Correct.
I can agree with that.
Does that mean that's a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Right.
Let's do a roll call vote.
Okay. Mr. Blathers?
Sure.
It's a yay or a nay.
Yay.
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Simile?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Stay.
Passed.
Okay. All right, let's see here then. I don't believe there's any old business to address. The next meeting is scheduled for October 2nd at 6:30 PM, pending any new business. Are there any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Awesome, thank you.
Hey, Rob, I need that map back.
Wait a minute.
The one that I handed to you.
Oh, is that it?
That was part of my packet.
Okay.
And the letter.
Well, I've got, okay.
Get your own papers.
I got it. All right. Okay. Good
Okay.
risk. Good.
It ran 6 minutes long.
Jeez, you don't know how to run a meeting.
Sorry,
Oh,
I have to work on that. Maybe I can get
Like we talked.
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting legislation.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Nice to see you.
I don't think there's any, Eric, you don't have any appropriations for Monday night?
Well, we have to, we have to talk about that property. Are we moving forward with that property?
We are.
So then, yes, we will have a appropriation.
I'm waiting for the,
Which one?
the purchase,
The one
so,
we already.
Yeah, we already did. We just,
so we're gonna have to fund it,
Okay.
and the county has not come back to me when they're gonna get us the money yet.
Well, let me know. I'm gonna be out Friday and Monday. I'll be back on the meeting unless Terry.
I'll be back.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one-
So you need
I'd
by
like
Thursday?
The one
To
on,
know,
Fair Oaks and.
I'd like to know by
That's
Wednesday.
totally.
Okay.
It's like put together.
Okay.
Because I like emailing it to you. By noon on Friday.
I'm depending on the
Yeah.
assistant county administrator getting back.
Okay.
They're not quick.
I got you. All right.
Yeah.
Very good. See you.
There's some gravel there.
Thanks, Alex.
It's decorative
Somebody
gravel.
forget their bag.
Oh, Rob, you're gonna do it again?
Well, I don't know, I just think this.
Wow.
Really trying to get rid of this.
I get where she's coming
Follow
from.
me around like a dog.
So I'll follow up with a letter to her.
So that's, to be clear, this was a motion from Mr. Simile to approve a variance setback 3 feet from the sidewalk with a decorative
We just had one installed on the back.
above 6 feet.
6 foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're keeping up on another meeting.
And that was
And
live.
four
That was
at
recorded.
the back corner to the side.
Yeah, we did. It was funny because you were on our patio.
All right.
We did have 5. I was